What's going on, guys? Back into the studio. Sorry I had a little mishap last week, but I am going to be dropping 2 episodes this week. Some good stuff back to back, stuff I've been planning. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone has been having a good time. The school year's starting. Guys, as always, if you're starting out, maybe there's something you're trying to work on, need somebody to talk to, you got something that's mulling through your head, you don't know how to get started on it, go into the show notes, click the link and drop on and let's get a 15-minute call together. Just somebody to talk to. Maybe you don't have anybody to talk to about what's going on, maybe something in business, something that's toying with you. Let's sit down and talk. I don't mind just being an open ear, maybe ask a few questions. That's about it. Let's see what happens to the guys who have called and we've talked to already, man. I'm watching you. I'm praying for you. I see good things happening. So let's keep up with that momentum. So if I cough, just letting y'all know, I've kind of had a little something I'm working out, but it feeling a lot better. Should be good. Guys, the other day, I'm driving around on the golf cart, and I've got me, my wife, and one of her friends, and we're all just having a good time. We're running around late. We're just talking, catching up. I hadn't talked in a while. And it's always inevitable when you get around with some of your friends, you always say, hey, what's up with so-and-so? I haven't heard from them in a while. Or what's going on with this buddy or this friend or this couple or whatever's happening. And if you haven't talked to someone in a while, more than likely, you hear something. It's like, oh, didn't know that, or that's surprising you. And that's going to catches you off guard. And man, when that happens, or things are going on, actually, I want to go a different direction with this. Because it is important to know about what's going on with your friends' lives and where I want to take this. But sometimes your friends or your family or some people or someone you're close to, they'll do things. And maybe you won't expect it. Someone will cancel on a party for you. Someone won't show up when they're supposed to. Someone will be late. Somebody makes a commitment, or even maybe sometimes somebody does something and it's amazing and you don't expect it. Somebody drops something off at your house when you're sick. Somebody picks up your kids when they know that you're running around late. Somebody just does something nice for you. And sometimes when this happens, I got a little saying that goes by. I always say people are going to people. And the reason that I say that is because you have to expect people to do what human nature allows people to do. You almost in a way have to expect the unexpected from people when they do things. And just anticipate that, man, some people are going to do amazing things and some people are going to be, as I tell my kids, some people are going to be shitheads. And when it's that you run into these opportunities, you cannot allow that to dishearten you. And the reason why I say that is because, as I was saying, when we were riding around on the golf cart and we're catching up and talking about what's going on in our people's lives, and then we ask about, hey, what about so-and-so? Haven't heard from them, haven't seen them around. What's going on? They've been quiet lately. And you start hearing about what's happening in their life. People are going to have people because they have things going on in their life that we don't even know about, that we aren't aware of, that we aren't conscious of, because we also live in a society where everything's bright and rosy and, everything's fine, everything's good, happy us. Here we are on vacation. Here we are at this restaurant. Here we are out with friends. Maybe we're at the Astros game. It doesn't matter, but people are still going through things. And that lends to why people are going to people. And I think we forget about that at times. I think at certain moments you understand it. Maybe if somebody cancels on us to go to a party or a dinner or something, maybe finances are a little tight right now, or they're questioning about their job and they don't want to make a rash decision. Or, if somebody if we run into somebody at the grocery store and they're just kind of short with us, maybe that person's going through some hard stuff on their own. Maybe that person is just at that moment not capable or able to have a conversation that you wish they would want. And this goes through that in relationships we have with our friends, with our family, with our loved ones, with our spouses, boyfriends, girlfriends, mechanic, anyone else. You often have these unspoken expectations or for them. That's one of those things they teach you in marriage is that, if I have an expectation of my wife and she never lives up to it and I get angry for her, but I never told her about it, then my God, that's where the fight starts. In fact, the one that we've had, which I can think about, is whenever our kids were younger, we'd get invited to all these parties and functions and socials, and we would go. And just sometimes I would get a very bad anxiety to the point that, like, I was recluse. I didn't talk to anyone. I did not want to be there. It was like a full-blown anxiety, panic attack. I don't know what it was. In talking with a few other guys, I know that they had the same thing, and they told me. And it got to the point finally where I told them, and afterwards my wife would be like, why were you that way? She has an expectation of me that I'm going to be the life of the party. I'm going to be Mr. Social Butterfly. I'm going to be Mr. Good Timing. But in certain situations, I can't perform that way. And so she had an expectation of me, and I just had an expectation of where I'd go and I'd just be, I'd think I'd be fine. And I wasn't. Until finally I had to tell her what was going on and what was happening. And when we finally came to an agreement where it's like, where she thinks you're just miserable at some of these parties. It's like, no, it's not that I am miserable, but I'm miserable at the fact because I just have like a full-blown almost anxiety attack or panic attack. And so we finally came to the point where it's like, if we got at one of these parties, we're going to clear it with each other. And if you want to go, you go. And if not, you stay home and cut the grass and fold clothes and do laundry and do all that other stuff. And that's the agreement we made. And that's the people I'm going to people. But even more nowadays, I do believe that we need to be in contact with our friends, with our family, with our loved one, and understand and have the deeper conversations of what's going on. How are you feeling? What's happening in your life? We need to know these things, because when we take these things and we know these and our friends act a certain way, then we can say, well, that person's going to be that way because of this. And then it doesn't catch us off guard. And I do think this is missing significantly. I don't think we share enough, because it reminds me of a time when I was a kid. My Mama Ruth, at her house, every so often on a Saturday or a Sunday, her friends, Mr. Tom and Miss Marion, would stop by, and they would sit for hours and just have coffee. And someone would bring a French bread with some butter, and they'd maybe make a pound cake with some pudding, and that was so good. I loved when that was the case. I knew when I go to my mom's house and there was a pound cake in the freezer, I'd be like, ooh, I think Mr. Tom and Miss Marion's coming by. Because she only had it when they were there. And then she'd be making pudding. I'd be like, they're coming. Mr. Tom would teach me how to rope, and Miss Marion was always a wonderful, beautiful lady. And they would sit and talk for hours and hours and drink coffee and do that. And I was like, as a kid, I didn't know what was going on. But now later on in life, I'm like, they were just talking. It wasn't a quick Instagram. It wasn't a phone call. It wasn't a text. It wasn't something like that. It was hours of talking. Excuse me. And I think that's what's missing right now. Whenever people to us, people are going to be short when they're anxious and there's anxiety in their home and they don't know what's going on, and there's marital problems, and they maybe you have a good marriage and they don't, and they're gonna look at things and they're just going to be a certain way. It just happens. It's human nature. And if you've never studied human nature, I mean, it is what it is. There's a book called The Four Agreements, and I think this helps out a lot for this. And there's, it was written a while back, and it was the basis of it. I'm going to see if I can do this off the top of my head, so be patient with me. But the first one is to be impeccable with your words. Speak genuinely. Don't just fly off the cuff. The second one is don't take anything personal. Like I said, you see that person in the grocery store and they see you and they just run right off. They don't talk to you. It's like, how dare they? Well, maybe they're having the worst day of their life. Again, don't take anything personal. The third, I'm going to have to look it up real quick. Luckily, I got my phone by me. But it's a very good book. Give me 1 second. I'm Googling it. All right. Do your best. Try. Put some effort in. If someone treats you a certain way or does something, then man, go ahead and just try to be better at it. And then the last one is don't make assumptions. Don't assume that what you are getting from someone is what it is. In fact, the best story I can have about that was a while back, one of my neighbors sent me a message. We were talking. He's like, hey, do you know so-and-so? I'm like, yeah, I know him. He's like, man, he just came flying through the neighborhood. I think I got to go. Do you know where he lives? I want to go talk to him. I'm like, man, that doesn't sound like him at all. I told him, I was like, buddy, before you do that, I really think something might be wrong. Maybe reach out to him and check on him. Sure enough, he reached out to him and he says, hey, man, I'm so sorry. My boy jammed his finger in the door. I was trying to get him home so we can take him to the doctor. The assumption is he's an asshole because he drove through the neighborhood. The truth is he was taking care of his boy. People, they will people. They will do things like this. They will. It's just one of those ways that you have to look at it and say, man, what's going on there? What's happening? What is up with that? So when you look at people, I'd say, give them the benefit of the doubt. Assume that their actions are based on something else going on in their life, and it's a reflection of that. And do your best to reach out to that person. Maybe they found out they're getting divorced. Maybe they found out they lost a job. Maybe they found out kid's sick. Maybe they found out some of the worst news. And I know that I'm going negative with this, but it's the tendency of human beings when something goes negative in their life, they go negative because it throws them off. That's human nature. We are wired scientifically, medically, nature-wise, to think negative, to go negative. So when that happens, you have to be the mature one and say, hey, I'm not going to rush to judgment on this. I'm going to look after my friend. I'm going to look after my spouse. It works on your kids too, man. There's so much to this, but it's very simple. And I've been toying with this one in my head because every once in a while something just comes up and we're like, people are going to people. Something happens. And when something does happen, go ahead and steal this. Just when something happens with a friend, with someone you know, something happens in business, even just understand people are going to people. And then let it go because you move on. You don't hold it against yourself. There's no rationale for it, or there's no rationale. Let's go with that one. There's all these things that you will look for in life and try to find and try to explain and try and find some reason behind it. But ultimately, it just is what it is. People being people. I'm a person. I think I'm a person. I'm not a lizard person. No, I'm not. So, but in this time, take a moment. Think about your people. Think about the people that are close to you. Think about those that mean something to you. Start with, start with your spouse, start with your boyfriend, girlfriend. If you don't have any of those, start with your friends, your family, all those. Excuse me. Make a list. Make a list of your people and say, what do I need to worry about or think about for them? And then go on with it. Well, like I said, I'm going to make this quick, short. As always, if you've gotten something from this, please go like, share, subscribe. Give us a rating. We're on all the platforms. If you can, I'd appreciate it. As always, guys, I'm praying for you, and I love you. Have a good one.